Omaha. You can't? Oh. Just say the word, yes, and then you'll be able to hear me. Thank you. Whether you're attending online or in person, I am glad you have chosen to join us for worship. We would like to extend a special welcome to visitors. This congregation is a community of all ages and abilities. It is a community with a rainbow of gender and sexual identities. It is a community of diverse cultural and class backgrounds. We draw from many sources of inspiration and share common liberal religious values. Whoever you may be, we welcome you to bring your whole self into this community. If you are joining us online, you're encouraged to create a YouTube account to sign into when you attend online. This will give you access to the comment feature on YouTube. You can use the comments to share joys and concerns that will be lifted up in worship, to say hello to other online attendees, or to share something about how the service is connected with you. For those here in person, you are invited after the service to go down to the common room for coffee and conversation. And I want to let you know that our speaker today is Mike Forsythe. A lot of the preliminary information we sent out said Steve Smith, but he is unable. So Mike Forsythe is the Voting Rights Manager for Civic Nebraska. And we also have Cheuqa Yang. God, I'm sorry. Oh my gosh. And she will also be speaking during this. She'll do one of our readings. And we have Jerome McLeod from the Alternatives to Violence group, and he will be doing the chalice lighting later. So I do have a couple of announcements. I'm sorry, I've been so clumsy with everything so far. I'm supposed to tell you to notice those new clipboards in the pews. Those are for visitors who are welcome to fill out the visitor form on the clipboard. On Thursday, March 14th, the UUA is holding, and this is quite nice timing because this is Civic Nebraska, Voting Rights, who's talking to you today. And this happens to be from Dave Richardson, that the UUA is holding a nationwide Zoom gathering launching the work of UU The Vote 2024. Noting we are grounded in our faith and national community's current political and spiritual conditions, the work needed in 2024 will require us to anchor in our power and connect authentically to mobilize UU's voters in our local communities. UU The Vote 2024 is an ambitious strategy to grow a powerful pro-democracy majority. There will be an e-blast in the coming week on how to register for this Zoom gathering. Once again, the date and time is Thursday, March 14th at 6:00 p.m. Central Standard Time. So you'll look for information on how to register. And before we continue, it's always appropriate to acknowledge that the First Unitarian Church of Omaha occupies the traditional treaty lands of Omaha and Oto-Missouri tribal nations whose sovereignty existed long before the state of Nebraska. We would like to also express our respect to the Ponca tribe of Nebraska, the Winnebago tribe of Nebraska, the Santee Sioux tribe of Nebraska, and over 170 other tribes presented within the Omaha area. And now we'll have the prelude. People get ready with Judy and Bill Tull. No? No. We Are Glad You're Here by Amanda Schuber. If this is your first time here or your 101st time, we are glad you are here. If you carry the weight of a weary world on your shoulders, or you entered through the doors with a song in your heart and a skip in your step, we are glad you're here. If you are the loudest voice in the town square or the subtle hand behind the scenes, we are glad you are here. If you have failed once or 1,000 times, we are glad you are here. If you sing like angels or mumble behind the hymnal, we are glad you're here. This community is what it is because of your presence. So welcome, welcome into this space of love, support, justice, compassion, fellowship, and worship. We are glad you're here. And now join us as we sing our opening hymn in the gray hymnal, number 34, Though I May Speak with Bravest Fire. Also, if you like, you can stand up for this, or if you're more comfortable sitting, go ahead. You may sit down. Next is the time for all. No? What? Oh, we got a chalice light. You guys, I messed up my own script. Oh, you can't hear me either? Well, we're just going to have 100% here. Oh, I turned too many pages, everybody. Okay, so today, Jerome, you want to come on up? Jerome is going to actually light the chalice, and he's going to lead you through the reading. And this is Jerome McLeod. He is with the Alternatives to Violence group with Suzanne King. And Suzanne is the one who chose this lighting script today. So go ahead and light it, and then he's going to just come over here. Don't worry about it. Thanks, kindness. So you'll see that we have these words. They're different than we usually do. Suzanne picked them out.
Thank you. Mm-hmm. All right, my name is Gerald McLeod. I go by Grateful Gerald. No, it's all right, no worries. So this is the chalice lighting. Suzanne picked these words out. I'm going to read them very slowly. You can follow along if you like. We need more light about each other. Light creates understanding. Understanding creates love. Love creates patience. And patience creates unity. That's by Malcolm X.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Now we have the time for all ages. Cheuqa, you want to come up and save me from this? All right, she's going to read the book, and she'll announce it, and I will just change the pages for her.
Hi, everyone. My name's Cheuqa Yang. I'm with Civic Nebraska, so thank you, Peg. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to read A Vote is a Powerful Thing by Catherine Steyer. A vote is a powerful thing. That's what my teacher says. Powerful enough to change the world. That gets my attention, so I listen up. One vote combined with other votes during an election is what puts our mayors, governors, senators, and even the President of the United States into office, Mrs. Trask explains. Right now, that's what everyone's talking about, the presidential election in November. But Ms. Trask says we'll soon have our very own classroom election too. It's for something I think you'll all care about, Ms. Trask hints. Elections can be about important issues as well. A vote, we find out in class, really is a powerful thing. So powerful that throughout our country's history, people organized, marched, and protested for the right to vote. My grandma knows a vote is a powerful thing too. Powerful enough that she's up early this Saturday. Please vote for funds to save the wilderness park, Grandma tells every grown-up she meets. Being outside in the forest is good for you. And where else in this town can folks experience the wonders of nature? People don't know much about the wilderness park. I do. It's where I saw my first mountain laurel in full bloom, my first turtle in a pond, my first swallowtail butterfly. It's where I spotted my first and only great horned owl. I want to save the park too, but I don't know how to help. At school, we talk more about voting. We learn that supporters of a candidate or a cause may spend lots of time and money on campaigns with signs, ads, and speeches. They do this in hopes of winning each citizen's one precious and powerful vote. That day, Ms. Trask makes her big announcement. Our classroom election will be for our next field trip. You may choose between the Cookie Factory or the Wilderness Park. The Cookie Factory tour gives free samples. Yum, says Lynn. I heard there's a nature trail at the park, says Reed. What's so special about that, asked Guinea. Suddenly, I know this election is important to me, and I have an idea. Some of my classmates have never been to the Wilderness Park. If they saw it just once, I know they want to visit again and bring their families. Then maybe lots of people would care about saving the park. Ms. Trask, I say, I'd like to campaign in support of the Wilderness Park. An inspiring idea, Callie, she says. So first, I design posters, I draw postcards, I write a speech. It isn't easy. Maybe you could share your best memories of the park, Callie, Dad suggests. So that's what I do. But I'm not the only one campaigning. On our class's election day, Lynn makes her speech first. She reads all about the Cookie Factory. She tells everyone we could learn important things on the tour about food and science and technology. She isn't wrong. The Cookie Factory would be a good field trip. And don't forget free cookies, Lynn says. Then it's my turn. First, I tell everyone about my best wilderness park memories, the woodsy forest smells, the cardinals singing in the trees, and the tadpoles with long tails and brand new legs wriggling around the pond, and that awesome owl. And like Lynn, I've done my research too. Scientists believe that spending time in nature can help kids be healthier and smarter and more creative, I say. And even kinder, too. Really? Kenny's asks. Uh-huh. But we can find out all for ourselves, I say. Vote for the Wilderness Park. Everyone in class receives a paper ballot. One by one, we cast our votes. I hold my breath as Miss Trask counts them up. She pulls the last ballot from the box and holds it up. I am proud of Lynn and Callie, said Miss Trask. You both ran great campaigns and made some excellent points about each field trip. So excellent, in fact, that the election is tied now, with just one vote left to count. Miss Trask unfolds the last ballot and smiles, and the winner is... At the Wilderness Park, Reed scrambles up a rock. Diego sniffs a wildflower. Guinea examines a spider web through a magnifying glass. And then we all spot it, a quick flash of red as a fox darts from a bush and dashes across the path. I've never seen a fox before. That's amazing, Lynn whispers. I wish my brother could see all this. And my mom, says Reed. I'm full of hope. Because now I know it's really true. A vote is a powerful thing.
Go now in peace, go now in peace. May the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Go now in peace, may the spirit of love surround you everywhere, everywhere you may go. Okay. We have a stewardship moment and that, oh, okay. All right, you will announce yourself then.
Okay, yeah, I was supposed to do it on the 31st here, and I got called to substitute earlier here, and so procrastinator that I am, I was typing some notes just as I was sitting here, and of course, thanks. But that as it is, where to begin? My story. Back in the last century, 1958 to be exact, I was born to the parents of two of the most generous people. This story spans 65 and a half years, so get comfortable. No. No, it's kind of funny when reflecting on one's life how many stories there are. I have been blessed in so many ways that it staggers my mind at times, particularly as I age, my mind just doesn't work as good. But for the sake of a timely sermon, I'll restrain myself. Diana and I first visited this church on a New Year's Eve gathering. Sandy Aquila from the Ohm Center actually had a lot to do with it. I don't know how closely it was tied into the church activities or what, but when we came to this building, it means a lot to us. We were stunned and amazed, and we had to come back. And so we came back for the service, and Pastor Frank and the music was swept us away. Pastor Frank reminded me of my older brother, who's 8 years older than I am, and shared some philosophical approaches to things that really talked to us. And then I met Dean Christensen, and he was a pillar of this church in so many ways. He had one of these chandeliers 3D printed because one of them had broken, and that wasn't an inexpensive proposition, but he had it and he had the heart. And then Jamie Alexander took me on a lighter than air experience in a glider that both raised money for the church and shined on his abilities to give. And so that was another very good experience. And so I will go back to my opening statement that I was born to the parents of two of the most generous people, and so giving and being generous is kind of in my blood. I'm a retired dentist. I gave a lot of my services away to people that couldn't necessarily manage them otherwise, and I did probably 12 mission trips to South and Central America that reflected my desire to give and give back. But this stewardship committee or this stewardship drive is about money. And so I am asking to have you open your hearts and give a little bit more. I know there's a lot of organizations that just keep asking for more and more money, and you can never give too much is what it comes down to, but you do have to weigh in your heart what you can give and what this church actually gives to you in return, or what it is able to give to you in return. That's all I have to say, but please, during this drive, give some thought to it. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, every week we take up an offering in support of our liberal religious values, and half of the loose currency in the offering plate is donated to a cause with a local presence which advances important principles of Unitarian Universalism. Those on YouTube may choose to donate directly to the organization online. The Share the Plate recipient for the month of March is All People's Pantry. All People's Pantry, or APP, has provided culturally appropriate foods to the greater Omaha Council Bluffs area intercultural community whose needs are not met by traditional food pantries. Thank you.
It's been a long time
Thank you, Bill and Judy. Next, we'll have our joys and concerns. Colin, do you have anything for us? Would you like to come up?
We have 2 caring notes to pass along. A memorial service will be held for past church member Bill Anderson on Saturday, March 23rd at 2 p.m. And another caring note, a memorial service will be held for church member Dixie Lemon on Sunday, April 7th at 1:30 p.m. And online from Suzanne, she says, sorry she couldn't be there today. I very much appreciate Mike, Cheuqa, and Gerald for covering for me and bringing this very important service to you today. Thank you.
All right, and this is a time in our service when we kind of just center ourselves a little bit. And I just have a very, 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 very short meditation. And when I ring the bell, we'll be done. If you'd like to get comfortable, both feet on the floor, sitting nice and erect, but not stiff. And allow your eyes to soften and close. And breathe in calmness and peace. And breathe out stress and discomfort. Relaxing your shoulders. And relaxing your abdomen. And let the worries in your mind dissolve. You feel the support beneath you, holding the weight of your body. Connect with the earth below you. And you're aware of the sounds that are around you, but you just let them be there, allowing your mind to empty of anxious thoughts and feelings, letting them go. And you allow those thoughts to flow out and away from you. You also allow your body to release the tensions that hold you. You let those go, and you let the tensions flow out and away. Thank you. Then we'll have Cheuqa come up, and she's going to do our reading before the sermon.
The Universalist minister Clarence Skinner wrote a century ago, "The fight for freedom is never won. Each generation must win for itself the right to emancipate itself from its own tyrannies, which are ever unprecedented. Therefore, those who have been reared in freedom bear a tremendous responsibility to the world to win an ever larger and more important liberty."
Thank you, Cheuqa. All right, now, as I said before, we had said that Steve Smith was speaking, but it's going to be Mike Forsythe. He's from Civic Nebraska. He's the manager of voting rights. He and Cheuqa will be downstairs. And I forgot to mention, Gerald, that you brought snacks that Suzanne had purchased. So it's going to be a party downstairs. Come down. So Mike, go ahead and give us your talk.
Good morning, friends. As Peg mentioned, my name is Mike Forsythe. I am the Voting Rights Program Manager at Civic Nebraska. I want to thank you for hosting me and my colleagues, Cheuqa and Gerald, this morning. We're honored to be here among you and grateful for the opportunity to share a few words this morning. For those of you who might not be familiar with Civic Nebraska, we're a nonpartisan, nonprofit organization that was founded in 2008 by Adam Moorfeld when he was an undergraduate at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Over the years, we've grown to about 100 full and part-time staff. We are based in Lincoln, but we are also present in many communities around the state, including right here in Omaha. Our logo features the words modern and robust democracy, and we strive to live the spirit of those words every day. First, we are in schools around Nebraska, enriching civic learning beyond what kindergartners to 12th graders get in the classroom. This happens through our after-school clubs and academies in schools around the state. In Lincoln and here in Omaha, we take it a step further. We run 6 before and after-school programs in 6 different schools, 3 in Omaha and 3 in Lincoln. Every day we work with hundreds of K through 12 students to reinforce those building blocks of democracy, those skills that every American needs: critical thinking, collaboration and cooperation, civil discourse, and media literacy, among others. That's our youth work. Second, we have what we call civic health programs. And this doesn't mean tongue depressors and blood pressure monitors. Civic health is the way in which residents of a community or state participate in activities that strengthen well-being, enhance interconnections, build trust, help each other, talk about public issues and challenges, volunteer, stay informed about their communities, and craft solutions to shared challenges. Our staff works around Nebraska with residents from the big cities to small towns to build and sustain our state's civic health. And finally, we have our Voting Rights Initiatives team, the amazing group that Cheuqa and I help lead. I suspect most of us here today, if you've heard the name Civic Nebraska, think of us as a voting rights organization. And we don't mind, because the protection of voting rights is perhaps the most urgent and important concern in these times. We all know that without the right to vote, there is no method to hold our leaders accountable. There is no real way for our values and vision to be represented in our institutions. There is no way to count in America. And as we've seen over the past decade or so, this most basic right, the right to vote, is never guaranteed. As we've seen this since the Supreme Court of the United States 2013 ruling in the Shelby versus Holder case, which gutted protections guaranteed by the Voting Rights Act of 1965, democracy has been under constant attack. And today, I pay homage to a man whose moral leadership in so many ways moved America closer to that more perfect union that the framers envisioned. Thanks in large measure to the work of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. and allies, the Voting Rights Act was signed into law 59 years ago. After centuries of bondage, literal and otherwise, millions of our fellow Americans were finally ensured the most fundamental right in our self-governing nation, the right to choose our elected representatives, the right to count. And on January 15th, we honored Dr. King on what would have been his 95th birthday. And yes, voting rights are still to this day under attack. Across the country, including right here in Nebraska, there have been constant and well-funded attempts to build unnecessary barriers to the ballot box. Some have succeeded, others have been stopped. But all of them seek to take us back to a day when the voices of communities of color, of voters with disabilities, of young people, and of other historically underrepresented groups were diminished or even silenced. That is why at Civic Nebraska, we believe in our heart of hearts that everyone's right to vote must be championed, defended, and exercised to the absolute fullest. It's why we do what we do. Supporting and lobbying for pro-voter policies and working to minimize these schemes that do harm to everyday Americans who are simply seeking to cast a ballot. We were invited to be with you this morning to speak about voting rights and what that means for us all in 2024. In preparing, our first thought that we probably could just string together a few familiar bromides about voting. You know how your vote is important, and how if you don't vote, you can't complain, and how in a democracy, your vote is your voice. And consider our job completed. But it's a simple fact, friends, that as Americans, we are called to do so much more than just cast our vote every 2 to 4 years. To protect our democracy, we must do so much more beyond voting. Now, that's easy to do. That's easy to say, not so easy to do. And it's not from a lack of concern. We Americans don't want our democracy to become any weaker. That much is obvious, but many of us are unsure what concrete steps that we, as everyday people, can take to do anything to help. Well, when I and my colleagues refer to democracy, we mean more than just our system of government. Modern and robust democracy requires more from us than following and fretting about politics, or posting on our political opinions on social media, or occasionally giving $20 to our favorite candidates. Democracy has to be a way of life, derived from our commitment as citizens to the common good. We can assess the vitality of any democracy by looking at its history, its current state, and its potential to serve the hopes and dreams of its people. But the truest measure of its health is how well democracy is practiced. At Civic Nebraska, so much of our daily work is to reassure Nebraskans and Americans by reminding them of the power that each of us truly possesses. We constantly reinforce this notion that all of our actions, whether big or small, official or unofficial, or inside or outside established power structures, compound. And we strive to help answer the persistent question about how together we can protect and sustain our precious American democracy. There are any numbers of misfires and false starts in this work, because just as democracies can advance, they can also retreat and fall into peril if they are neglected and mistreated. They require citizens to take responsibility for the well-being of one another, and therefore their democracy, and also to innovate in how we address modern challenges to it. There are many ways to do this, but when asked for our elevator speech on how to protect democracy, we tend to offer 5 distinct verbs. And those verbs are join, serve, gather, advocate, and of course, vote. Let me just say a few words about each of them. Join. Americans have a long history of being joiners. Tocqueville was amazed at this as far back as the 1830s. We're good at uniting to pursue our aims, often in voluntary associations, which provide unity and social strength. These associations have served, and they continue to serve, as powerful ways to right fundamental wrongs and seek justice, whether it's for fellowship, mutual aid, professional groups, labor groups, reform and progress, or just general community building. Associations help us fulfill our nation's potential and make this country as it was meant to be. So in 2024, please consider what group or what cause or what movement that you might join. Trust me, we need you. The second verb is serve. Now, the word serve reminds us to not overdose on individualism. As we know, in recent decades, individualism has been on the front foot, pushing our focus on the common good to the margins. As a result, our social connections have strained. And our shared values and common responsibilities give way to demands for special rights and entitlements. They give way to a selfish competition to acquire and amass. They give way to the scramble to consume. Which is why we need servant leaders to help us all find the path back, to emphasize collaboration and teamwork, to encourage us to work together across our differences on shared issues, to practice active listening, to devote ourselves to building equitable, inclusive, and pluralistic society, which in turn builds a true sense of community, a true sense. And so this year, let's resolve to adopt a service mindset. The third verb is gather. We can look at this one of two ways. Literally, the act of coming together for a common endeavor, which of course is what we're doing right here, right now. Democracy is pro-social, ideally. It happens face to face, in conversation, and in other in-person ways. Now, I don't mind Zoom, I really don't, but there is no substitute for being together and holding space for one another. Beyond the simple act of gathering, we'd ask you to consider what parts of our community don't have these critical spaces or avenues for resident support. Unsurprisingly, those who have been historically underserved or marginalized often lack ways to effectively and safely gather. In this sense, gathering means supporting projects and placemaking that bring people together who normally wouldn't or couldn't. This builds trust and agency in self-governing communities. In 2024, let's work to ensure that our communities prioritize building inclusive spaces that strengthen ground-up democracy. The fourth verb is advocate. This is another way to say, speak up and stand out. Advocating for an issue, a group of people, or a cause that allows our voices to be heard in the public sphere. So much of what we're experiencing today is because too few of us stand up and speak out. Not enough of us spotlight our perspectives to our wider community and call on others to help catalyze change in our towns, cities, and neighborhoods. Without advocacy, so many voices would remain silenced. This is the first step to a better mutual understanding in a world too often weighed down with polarization and hyperpartisanship. So in 2024, let's use our voices to lift up, not tear down. And the final verb is vote, something that we've already emphasized and we doubt you need convincing on. But just in case anyone is unconvinced or is feeling like their vote doesn't count for anything, here's our final pitch. In America, the ballot box is sacred space, and voting is in many ways a spiritual act. When we elect representatives or weigh in on referendums, we proclaim our personal beliefs and help shape our public surroundings, all which shapes our communities long after the polls close. To be a voting citizen is itself an act of faith because we all depend on each other. And together we trust that our actions can and will make a difference. So in 2024, be sure that you and your friends and your family put your whole selves into the voting process and commit to helping others in this space as well. So to recap, join, serve, gather, advocate, and of course, vote. That probably sounds like a lot of work. And you're right, it is. But it always has been. From the start, America has never been about low-effort, entry-level participation. It's advanced citizenship. That's our tradition. That's our history and our legacy. And so it should surprise no one that this is the task before us now. We harbor no illusions about the challenges that our state and our nation face. Instead, we find strength in the proven and continually provable fact that as individuals, we are far more powerful than we tend to give ourselves credit for. and that collectively there is no limit to what an engaged, informed, and loving American people can do. Democracy is a verb, and it goes beyond voting. It's owning issues together, holding ourselves mutually accountable, and putting sincere trust in one another. These things are old. These things have been with us since the founding, and they're waiting there for us to reclaim them. Let it be so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. So now for our closing song, we're only going to sing verses 1 through 3 of number 100 in the Gray Hymnal. I've got Peace Like a River. So as a reminder, please go downstairs during coffee hour, and they have so much information and a table set up for you. And my final words are, go ahead and do it right now. Thank you. Yeah, just put it out. As the chalice is extinguished and we reflect upon what we have learned this day, let us go forth with a passion to bring love, kindness, and justice to our world. Thanks.